The days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the people of Israel and with the people of Judah. It will not be like the covenant I made with their ancestors when I took them by the hand to lead them out of Egypt, because they broke my covenant, though I was a husband to them, declares the Lord. This is the covenant that I will make with the people of Israel after that time, declares the Lord. I will put my law in their minds and write it on their hearts. I will be their God, and they will be my people, altogether. No longer will they teach their neighbor or say to one another, know the Lord, because they will all know me, from the least of them to the greatest, declares the Lord. For I will forgive their wickedness and will remember their sins no more. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.
Welcome. Thanks for coming. I'll try not to mess this up too badly. Okay, here we go. So, as you know, we started with my favorite synopsis of the Gospels by John, Paul, George, and Ringo. All you need is love. I mean, from the last time I talked to you, you probably kind of gathered that I probably talked about that, because lately that's been what's been most on my mind. And do you all agree that that's pretty gospel? All you need is love. All we need is love. Well, yeah, I mean, it does say in Matthew that Jesus is asked, I need my glasses on. What's the chief commandment? He says, well, it's to love God with all your heart, soul, mind, body, and strength, something like that. And equally, love your neighbor as yourself. So, love. Yeah. So we can all go home now. We'll just sing the song and I'm done. It's a little bit more complicated than that, because clearly if we're listening, we realize that, we probably need, oxygen, shelter, food, water. But psychologically, do we need anything more than love? Or spiritually? And, when I was thinking about this, I was trying to think what we'd need more than that. And I don't think there really is anything more than what we need. But what we want might be different. So if you notice in the song, it's like, all we need is love. And then there's a part where he goes, it's easy. And is that also part of the gospel? And yeah, I think it is, actually. It's easy to understand what we need to do, I think. I know I tend to think in my head often when I'm in a situation where I'm trying to figure out what I should do or not do. Is this a loving thing to do? And I go, no, and I say it anyway. And then that's where I mess up and have to apologize and say, you were right, I was wrong, it'll never happen again. Repeat. So I think we very often know what we're supposed to do and how we're supposed to be loving. And, okay. I'm a little fuddled up today because last night was a terrible night for dialysis and I didn't get any sleep. But as some of you know who've been here a lot and some of you that don't, we do the lectionary, and we had the verse from Jeremiah, and that was kind of the key verse that I was focusing on today. So I'm going to break it down a little bit more now. And this is sort of the why is it easy part, because it wasn't always easy, let's say. So we have all the stuff that we've already read it before, so I won't go do all of it over again, but I'll talk. It says, it will not be like the covenant I made with their ancestors when I took them by the hand and led them out of Egypt. So we were being led out of something first off, I missed the whole point. Love. So God is love. That's what I talked about last time. God is love. Right? That's the chief characteristic of God. And if we're in God and God's in us, we're doing love. If we're doing loving things, we're participating in God. And that's where I might be a little bit heretical, but I mean, I think that's really what it comes down to is all the other things we sometimes ascribe to God are more things that are describing his love in action. He's just, well, that's just love in action. Kind, love, caring, mercy, love, just, love. I mean, if you think of all the things, holy, well, holy is kind of a different thing because that just means set apart. It just means his love's better than other loves, right? So love is the chief thing that he is, and then we get to participate in that and be in that. And now we're back to it's easy. Except when you're in the left lane and someone's going really slow, and then it's not so easy. So Jeremiah again, he's saying, and then the key part of this that I thought was interesting, he says, this is a covenant I will make with the house of Israel. I will put my law in their minds and write it on their hearts. Put it in our minds and write it in our hearts. And the will thing is like we know that when Jesus came, he was the first person that was able to kind of walk in that love unencumbered. And he didn't have to it was part of his being to be loved, not just something that he kind of thought about or whatever. And it says, I will be the Lord and they will be my people. In other words, we will be love, like God is love, if we remain in him and do these things and allow him to write these things in our heart and allow us to become that love that we're supposed to be. And then this is the part I always like, because it says, you guys can just go home now. No longer will they teach their neighbors or say to one another, know the Lord, because they will know me from the least of them to the greatest. So there you go. You can all go home now. There's another part at the end that sort of doesn't seem to be in keeping with the other part, which is, for I will forgive their wickedness and remember their sins no more. And so we have all this thing about love, and when you're listening to the Beatles, it's all happy and flowery and hippie-ish, and it's you don't think about the fact that there's also this wickedness that we were a part of also. And we'll get back to that in a little bit more, but part of being in love is we move out of something into something. And in contrast to that is fear, hatred, destruction, all those kind of things that we are also in love with. If you doubt me, take a look at all the most popular movies that we can go watch, right? Very rarely is it about love. Okay, maybe some of the girly ones that I don't watch, but the ones I watch, it's someone kicking the, smack out of someone. One of our classic Christmas movies is Die Hard. We love it, but it's not very, Bruce Willis isn't very Jesus-like in that. He's not like baking cookies for Hans Gruber and the boys from the foreign country. He's chucking them off a building. And I think that's another dynamic that all you need is love, but we love violence and vengeance and all these other things too. We like greed, and so all these things are going to be fighting with each other. And in the past and before we've known the grace of God, that is our fight all the time. And even when we're being saved, so we're not all the way there yet completely, but if we were there's that tension we have that we're called out of this thing and we're moving away from this thing. Is that clear? You're frowning at me. Nope, my fly is not undone. At least I hope it isn't. Okay, and so if you're like me, I don't necessarily. I like the idea that this is all easy, but I also recognize that it's not so easy, and I'm not quite sure why. The best hint I can get is I remember when I was first in love with Carol and going out, nobody had to tell me what loving things were to do. I didn't have to be told, don't look at other, don't do these things, don't do that thing, don't say unkind things. And, it was pretty sunny, and I was goofy and writing poetry and drawing stupid things. And, actually, maybe they weren't stupid. Maybe they were actually the best things I wrote. But, and it was very fresh and, easy. And then, a couple of weeks pass and it's not as easy, or, or you have your first fight and you think, oh my gosh, I think I've just ruined it. I've knocked the nose off the Sphinx. Like, there's no way this is going to, this is done. And then it isn't, and you're kind of like, whoo, whoa, dodge that bullet. I will never do that again, and back that way. And then, 40 years later, I mean, we're still in love, but it's not it's not quite as there. And sometimes I need reminding, like, towels need to be hung up. Gravity is not the organizational principle that I think it is. So, and I think that's sort of what happens, like, sometimes when we first are introduced to this whole new kingdom that we can walk into, the way of Jesus, we're like, whoa, I'm going to be perfect, and it's lovely, and it's Beatlesque. And then, I realize it's sometimes tough. But I want to move to a New Testament passage that fits with our Jeremiah passage. So we're going to turn to John, the other John, not the one that just sang. So this is John 14, and he says, if you love me, keep my commands, and I will ask the Father, and he will give you another advocate to help you and be with you forever, the Spirit of truth. If you love me, because I love you and we're love, you'll keep my commands. What's his commands? Well, the greatest command is love God, love your neighbor. So basically, we just have a simple, easy task. All we have to do is love God and love others. So the task is easy to understand. It's a little bit more difficult to do, but basically, that's his command. That's what we're supposed to do. End of story. We don't have to worry about how we're going to get our parking or all the other stuff. That's the thing. The next part of the thing we'll switch back to, but then it says, but the advocate, the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, will teach you all things and will remind you of everything I have said to you. And later on he says again, he will guide you in all truth. So if I get this straight, since we're after the Holy Spirit's come and we have the Holy Spirit to inform us in our lives, we don't need anything else, because the Spirit will tell us all things. That means we kind of know what's going on. And then this part. So this seems to kind of go a little bit different than what we've just read, that everything is going, it's easy. It says, remain in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commands, and remain in his love. My command is this, that you love each other. And as I've loved you, greater love has no man than that he lay down his life. Again, my command is love one another. So he has to command, so it's in us, but he also has to remind us constantly, because here's a command, here's a command. If it was just automatic, we wouldn't need to have a command. It would just happen. So this is kind of that weird dynamic that we're saved, we're being saved, and one day we'll be completely saved. Right now we know, and we're learning, and we'll know all completely at some other time. But it's all somehow innately there already in some sort of smaller form, but we can tap into it whenever we want. So there's never a point where we're not having access to the answer we need to what should I do right at this moment. Or if that makes any sense. So let's, sounds a lot easy, but let's bounce around back to John again, where he says, the world cannot accept him because it neither sees him nor knows him, but you know him, for he lives in you and will be in you. So clearly this isn't a natural thing, because otherwise the world would know it, just like everyone gets the Beatles. When everything's going great and she's groovy, it's easy to be love. It's when things are not, when they're beating the hell out of you, or when things are going horrible, or when you're in the room of someone dying, it's not all, you're not feeling all that groovy flower stuff. It's not obvious. And that's kind of the mystery that we have in our faith, is that these things are happening, like we're called to be loving when everyone else looks at you and kind of goes, that is daft as hell, because this is the time when you should fight, and this is the time when you should grab all you can. And it's counterintuitive to what we would naturally do, but it's available to us all the time. It's easy, but it's going to be but the situations are difficult. So we have these difficult situations, but an easy answer. And and it's also a paradox, so that's why it doesn't make any sense. Best I can do. I should bring Kierkegaard in here now. Do you know that he said it's sorge, which is love is care? Just thought I had to throw that in, because anytime I talk, I got to talk about Soren Kierkegaard. So how do we be Christian? What's the thing that makes us known as being a follower of the way of Jesus? Well, if you ask people in the world who also can't see very clearly, but can see clearly enough, it's that we don't like LGBTQ people and we don't like abortion. And that's pretty sad, that the thing we should be known for is that we love one another and we love God isn't the hallmark that we're most known for. And I think that's unfortunate, because I know that there's an awful lot of people here that are very loving and very kind, and we don't feel that way about our brothers and sisters that are LGBTQ here. But how do we do this stuff? And I was thinking back on this, and I think some of the church traditions that we have really focus on, do you believe the right things? Have you studied the right things? Have you said the words the right way, which is really magic, not really Christianity. But anyway, and so it begs the question, what about theology? Can theology help us be loving and help us be Christian? I don't know, maybe. No. Oops. Boy, did I waste my time at Regent. No, you're absolutely 100% right. It won't. Because you know why? Because if you put theology and knowing and believing first, you've got it backwards. Because you have to put, if your learning is fueled by love, absolutely theology is of a benefit to you. Because, if you love God, you want to know more. If you love others, you want to know more about how to do this, and you want to know if you're on the right course. But I know lots of people that know a lot of stuff that are cranky bastards. I know I'm one of them. And are not very loving and not very kind and not very, you can be a nasty person and know a lot of stuff. You can believe, it says the devil believes the same things we're supposed to believe. He knows even better than us. So I don't think that can be the thing that makes us Christian, what we believe or what we study. And so like I said, I went to Regent. I know that's true because I know every year they'd hide certain books so you couldn't get a perfect score. So academics are just as evil as the rest of us. Sorry, people from Regent. I did have fun there, usually in the coffee bar. The other thing is, and this is the one that I fall into temptation more too, is Christianity and following the way of Jesus is what you do, right? And so we have these things where some of it is the things we don't do, like we do not drink, smoke, or swear. And if that's true, I'm in a lot of shit because, I'm not there. But there are those kind of things. And I remember when our kids were a lot younger and we lived in a co-op with a whole bunch of people from the same church. And for some reason, we all thought that Halloween was evil at the time and we had to have fall festivals. And we thought this is a good way to show people that we're not of the world and blah, blah, blah. And I remember talking to someone from the co-op that I lived in, they go, oh, all those Christians are cheap, aren't they? They really don't want to hand out candy to kids, so they always disappear at Halloween. And I went, oh my gosh, like the symbol that I thought set me apart really wasn't cutting it with the neighbors. And so after that, we did Halloween. And we were much happier, just so you know. Unless we're burning in hell later for, anyway. The other thing that I thought really, like, so when I became more of a Christian than I was, say, when I wasn't one, it was after I'd gone down and did some service in Mexico amongst some really poor at an orphanage. And so I thought, well, I'm going to be a super duper Christian, like not like some of those other people that get jobs and stuff, but I'm going to go and work with the poor, because that will be the best thing. And I don't know if that made me a better follower of Jesus actually at all, because I realized when I got down in Mexico that not sure I like the poor. I mean, we'd show up at a job site to build a house, and there's a million kids running around, hammering nails into my tires and carving their name in my truck. And I'm like, son of a, and stealing our stuff. And it's like, you get up in the morning and people would be lined up at your door wanting stuff from you. And after a while, I go, I don't know if I like this. And after a while, it becomes just another job. I'd go to work and build a house and go, is it Friday yet? So I can go have a bath. And all the other missionaries I worked with down there, we were pretty much all the same. Like, we were jealous of each other sometimes, and like it didn't make us the service. The point I'm saying, this is all good stuff. I also saw some amazing things where people are deciding, like, we're going to take these little hellions that are tearing the place apart and play soccer with the boys. And the girls would sit around on the side and not do anything, and there'd be girls that would go over and braid their hair and comb it because it hadn't been done. And they'd do it when they could see lice crawling all over their heads and going, yeah, that's not important, I'm going to do this thing. That is love, and that happened in that kind of situation, but it didn't mean that because we were doing these things, we were necessarily loving, because you can be a very spiteful and petty person and do stuff to the poor. In fact, I think that might be it. If you're doing stuff to something, you're probably not getting it right. You probably should be doing stuff with them, right? And that's why I really appreciate Gordy's chili wagon. It wasn't, we're going to go feed these people. It's come and make chili with us and hang out and let us get to know you. That's love. Just doing stuff to people might not be. It might be too, like, I don't want to be judgmental, but I just know in my own heart, didn't necessarily make me better that I did that separate. And so I think the answer to how do we be a Christian or follow in the way of Jesus is a better way of doing it, is to be love and become like our Father. It's not about what we do or what we believe, it's who we are. And so how do we get there? And I have a couple of clues. I think it's about when you spend time with love, it changes who you are and you become more like love. It's sort of like when we were going out, she loved me, I loved her. It was really easy and basically, and this is like not humans, we're talking about God who doesn't throw a strop or gets cranky about something. That was me, not her. And so our passage today is talking about how in some future time he's going to write it in our hearts and do that. So what we want to do is allow the Spirit to do that to ourselves and to then operate in it. And it's not always easy. And I think because it's not always easy, I think that's why we're always called into being a body. Because even though we don't need each other to tell us what's going on, because the Spirit will do that without us, it's sometimes good to have some people that are pointing the way, because we're also torn in two directions of wanting love, but also wanting the other things. So having a bunch of people that are around you that are saying like, no, like, this is what love's like. This is what prophecy is about. It's telling us that the water is getting hot and we need to jump out of the pot, i.e. Rage Against the Machine. I recommend them. They're the prophets of our day, letting us know what's wrong with our culture to jump out of it. You got it. Sleep now in the fire. I think we're also called to be there because we need to be there for each other, because the world will beat the hell out of us. Like, it will beat us down. It can't help it, because it's just the nature of wanting to have power and wanting to have wealth and wanting to have all these other things, that means you can't have it. So bad things. If you're caring and compassionate, i.e. like Jesus, well, they crucified him, right? So that will happen, and that's why we need each other to be around to say, we got your back, right? When bad shit happens, you need to have some people in your corner. When cancer happens or friends die, it's good to have other people around you to say, we got you. It's tough. You can receive love. It's a big love generator, isn't it? You're receiving the love. It's being given out to you. It's encouraging you not to flip over to the other side, but to stay true. So I think that's the principal reason why we're called to be in a body, not to sing songs, although that was awesome. Wasn't that awesome? I love watching the Kim family do worship. It's my favorite thing. And then when they beat the crap out of each other on the way out of the... I just want to get in there and do it too, but I was like, yeah, I don't know if they'll let me do that anymore. So that's kind of my meditations on the lectionary we had this week, that, the day will come when it will be written on our hearts and our minds, and we pray that it happens more and more and more and more, and so that love becomes more and more and more an automatic thing, like where we don't have to struggle as much. And hopefully that a year from now we're better at it, or more, there's less resistance. I don't think it's that we're better at it, there's less resistance to the flow that happens. So keep your eyes open, and I mean, this church really does, the people here have been really strong in being people of care and love to me and my family, and so be encouraged. I think that's all I wrote. Yeah, thank you.